Thank you for having us back. And it's such an honor to be the speakers for the first time in the new location. So it's awesome. I'm feeling a little discombobulated because I'm actually still trying to come back up from the meditation, George. So we thought we'd do something a little different this evening. It's talk, part involvement from you guys. I'd like to introduce a new concept to you. And to do that, I need to have the wonderful words of my husband. And then we'll open up the floor to you guys to see if you have any thoughts or ideas or would like to challenge the thought. Annie mentioned that I'm a shamanic practitioner, I'm a shamanic teacher, and in traditional times, shamans would always challenge people. Not challenge as in to see how hard they could run or how far they could go and hike without food and water, they did that too, but challenge your mind. Challenge you to think outside the box. Because it always keeps you on the point of learning. If in a lot of Asian cultures have the stay in the beginner's mindset. That way you don't become complacent in your beliefs and what you think you know, that you'll always be willing to look outside the box and be open to new ideas and new concepts. So on that note, I'm going to introduce a concept to you. Let's see what you think. But first I want to tell you how this came to be. A few weeks ago, I had a woman come for a healing appointment. And this woman, as most of us, have had a lot of stuff happen in our life. And she said to me flat out, she said, you know what, you know this free will thing? I think it's all a lie. Free will is an illusion. It's a coping tool to make us think that we have a choice in our life. But everything is predestined. Everything happens. We have no say in it. And by the way, I did ask her permission to discuss this, so she's okay with this. And as she was saying it, I was thinking, yeah, but there is free will. That's what we're all taught. We're taught that we are able to make the different choices and go in different directions in our life. But as she continued to go on to say it's a coping tool to help us think we have choices, truth started to ring within my soul. And I thought, this is different, this is interesting, but it feels right. And so we talked about that for a little bit, thinking, but if that's the case, then how does it become predetermined? Who determines that? So in discussion we thought, okay, well, we know that before we come to this life, we decide what lessons we want to learn, what experiences we want to have, what karma we want to clear, and the people we want to help us, or the people that are willing to help us. That's where the free will lies. You decide then what you want to do, and you set parameters of what you want to do at what point in your life. So it's predetermined at that point. This was such an interesting conversation. We could have spent a whole hour and a half just talking about it, but we had to get her healing appointment, so off we went. But it's been going around in my mind in circles ever since. And we've been talking about it. And I said to Mark, I said, you know, my client today said something very interesting. So that sparked conversation with us. And that spark turned from conversation to debate. You should be in our household sometimes. And so eventually I thought this would be a good discussion sometime. So here's my thoughts. We always thought we had free will to decide if we want to go this path or this path. But when I look at my own life and how many decisions and choices that were made for me that were not my choice, but always led me to a better place, I can't say that was free will that took me there. It was not my free will that my parents decided when I was 4 months old to move to Canada instead of Australia, because they decided to go to Australia. My dad woke up in the middle of the night one night and said, "No, we're going to Canada." that had anything to do with me. Coming to Canada set the stage for so many other things. It was not my choice, my decision, that I ended in South Korea in 1983, which eventually led to me marrying this guy right here, 25 years later, but that's another story. And it was my choice and my decision to quit a job, but it wasn't my choice that my bosses accepted my letter of resignation. But thank goodness they did, because the next job led me to my intuitive healing teacher. And that led me to this person, which led me to my shamanic teacher, and on and on and on. So the way I see everything that happened in my life, none of it was my choice. It happened as it was supposed to, at exactly when it was supposed to. And I fought it in the beginning, but then I realized eventually things always worked out. Why fight it? So I gave in to it, so to speak, and things have just gotten better and better over time. So the concept, the idea that free will really is an illusion resonates with me. Just from my own personal experiences, this is my personal truth. However, Mark has a different perspective.
I do. I do have a different perspective, and I'd like to postulate another theory upon it. We have made a contract before we come to this existence, this plane of life, and in that contract we've set out the things we wish to achieve. Now, the universe, as we go along through that contract in life, the universe will give us the occasional kick in the tushy, but only if we really veer too far off that path of what we want to achieve. Now, I don't believe that there is a predetermined set time when things specifically must happen, and I do believe that we have free will to a certain extent. We have free will to a certain extent, and that free will allows us to vary in these parameters, and specifically allows us to vary the order in which they take place. Now, of course, obviously you have to learn to walk before you can run. You have to read and write, learn to read and write before you can go on in life as an adult. These are all set things that you need to do. But when it comes to achieving the necessary goals that you've set out to achieve in this lifetime, I think you are free to move about in your life and to say, you know what, I'd like to do this first because this feels right to me at this time. Not because the universe wants me to do it now, no, because I want to do it now. And that will eventually lead me to something else that I need to do. So, yes, if you look at the myriad number of decisions that have actually brought me here to this point, standing here in Angel Hall in this beautiful new facility in front of you all, I do indeed have to go back to 1983, where I first met Angela in the high school lunch line. But what happened in between was my own direction. I chose to go to college. I chose to not really achieve that well in college. I went to the land of beer. I didn't go to Belgium.
We're in Belgium, so I mean, come on.
Yeah, when in Belgium, do as the Belgians do: drink beer and eat French fries. Yeah, that's what I did, and I chose my own path. Now, at a certain point, the universe did give me a kick in the pants. I got married to the wrong person, and that was my own choice because I had a point to prove at the time. I proved it. Turned out I was wrong, but I had a point to prove.
But
now,
did you really choose that?
Yes, I think I did.
Are you sure that it wasn't already decided that you were going to do that
Exactly.
so that you could learn?
Well, that's a good question.
And
Yes.
have your kids, and eventually decide what you don't want and what you do want?
Yes, but did it have to be with that specific wife?
It was to learn a lesson from her.
That wife or wife?
Both.
Or strife.
Oh,
But was it specifically from her that I should have learned that lesson?
That's
Or could
what
it
you would have
been-
decided
and-
ahead of time.
Maybe, maybe not.
Anybody else, it would have been the same lesson.
Could it?
Exactly.
Depends on the lesson.
It depends on the person.
Depends on the person. For me, it was to decide what I don't want.
Each individual is different, and each individual you learn a different lesson.
For me, it was just simply to decide what I don't know.
Some are more crazier than others.
You know?
No, Mark, does
Yes.
the little fellow there want to ask a question?
Are you
Or you just
stretching or
stretching?
asking a question?
Ask him a question.
Ask him. Go ahead.
Can I give you free will right now? Which color would you choose? Green or purple?
It depends what am I choosing it for.
Just pick one. It doesn't have to do with anything. Would you choose green or purple?
I would choose, that's a tough one. I'm looking at a banner full of green and purple. I probably would choose green.
See, I told you. See?
But maybe I was supposed to, maybe I set and you set together that you would come and ask me this question. Do you know that for sure?
No, I put it in my head. I just thought of it.
But it took you a long time to come up with the answer.
And then I just raised my hand because I thought of it.
But maybe before you were born, as you are now, you decided that you were going to help me challenge me, and that was your question.
I'm working on that.
Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
So, that's the question. Are we free to move about within the things that we've set out to do, the order in which we do them, the people with which we do them, just as long as we learn the lesson?
Or are we free to screw up and just really go with it?
Very possible.
But
Are we
did
free to just execute the
predetermine
contract?
that, or did we actually really choose that? Or was that predetermined that we were supposed to work so hard and work so hard and work so hard and finally just say, oh, I'm done. Maybe that was
Reverend
decided.
George's point.
So what about people who actually come here and do not learn their lessons? Are you saying that you decided that if you decide that you want to learn certain lessons when you come this time, if you don't learn those lessons and you go back, are you saying that you already decided that you weren't going to learn the lessons before you came?
Possibly. No.
Oh, I want to say, and I meant to say this earlier, we're not here to tell you that there is no free will or that there is free will. We're just stretching your minds.
Mhm.
So we're not trying to say there's a right or wrong to this, just get you to think. But that's a good point. But maybe that was part of the predetermined plan because maybe it helps somebody else as a result.
You see,
And a domino effect.
if
Because if you fail to do something, that's affected other people. Very likely.
So look at all the hands. I told you.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm thinking that in that scenario, something popped in my head is that the soul before, entering that lifetime might have known, okay, too many lessons to learn in that lifetime. I'm going to pick 1 to 5
Okay.
and get it done in this one, and then I'll have to go back for 6 to 10, 6 to 11, until I get to mastery soul level where I don't have to go back no more.
When do you reach that?
I don't know. Yes, I'm working on it. Possible.
Yeah, of course it's possible. Everything, anything and everything
I
is
would never would have thought of it
possible.
until you said it tonight, until George asked that question.
Yeah,
Ma'am.
that's a good point.
Yeah, my idea is, I can agree with both.
Yes.
If I'm in a dire situation, I might pick one. And if I change, then I might pick another idea. And I think that's all to do our free choice. Whichever resonates with us at this moment of time. That's how I want to go with it. So, it's not like either you or Angela or, whatever. Both could make sense. And it's my free choice to choose whichever suits me at this moment of time. That's how I see it.
Whatever resonates.
Yeah.
And see, both scenarios, both make sense.
Yeah.
When you stop and think, you think about all the things that happened to you that you had no say in the matter. That wasn't your choice, but it all led you where you needed to be. But along the line, there are choices that you have to make that may change that or not change it.
Yes.
Sometimes the people you interact with have an effect on your choices.
Oh, absolutely. And
So
even
some of
sometimes a
those
stranger on a bus,
Yeah. Some of
could be
those
enough.
choices aren't your own. Some of those choices are made for you.
Exactly. Yeah, which goes back to the predetermined,
Yeah.
and not your free will, not your own choice.
Now, I agree to a certain point, as you know, and I also disagree to a certain point. If you look at the vast number of decisions, millions of them, that have to be taken in order to do everything in a predetermined sphere, that would be so huge, because that would actually have to go back to our grandparents. What we have done, the fact that we are standing here is a decision made by our grandparents, and before that.
Oh, endlessly, all the way back in time.
So that would mean that this grand machination of a universe has a plan for anything and everybody that has been predestined from, well, the beginning, if there ever was one, to the end, which if probably there won't be one. So,
unless it's been predetermined that it will be.
So I think that is why there's free will, because that allows you to maneuver between certain possibilities. That's my thinking.
Well, it all makes sense, and it's all very, very positive. But again, if all the major events are predetermined, but our free will is, well, do I want to wear the green shirt or the purple shirt? Or do I want soup or do I want sandwich? You know? Who had hands?
Back.
Janet?
I was just going to say, I think I look at it, my choice to look at things is, I think of Spirit as put us here like a parent. We, with our own children, we present situations to them, but we watch them make their choices because they need to learn their lessons. So I look at it, I'm placed here by my parents, and they put me in a situation. How I react to that situation, how I respond to that situation is my choice. So it was part here
And part there. So again,
if you can't make your own choices, then we would all probably walk and say, right? If a parent tells a
Not
child
necessarily.
how to walk and do stuff, at some point you have to let that child fall because
Exactly.
they need to learn to pick themselves up.
but maybe the
So
situation, the
that's how I-
circumstances is set, but your emotions is still your choice.
Right.
You choose to react in anger or react in a different way. That's where your free will lies, possibly.
So where does it come in if we're talking about things that happen through our life?
Yes.
What about when it becomes something bad or something happens to you that is not good? So where does free will? Because do you honestly think that we pick that? To have a car accident? To have something?
I do. I think we picked that before we come.
No, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, you
Yeah.
know, that,
Yeah.
you know, we're,
Yes,
yeah.
we have free will comes in, right?
Go ahead.
My question is about where does intuition come into all of this? I'm playing the chaos factor here, because there's times everybody in this room can say you followed your intuition and things have worked out, and there's times that you haven't followed your intuition and it's gone horribly wrong. I had one particular circumstance, if I go by Angela's, that I would have sat there and said positively, I made this contract up beforehand that I was not going to listen to my intuition this particular day, which it actually gave me 3 separate chances to get my nerves out of what was going on, and I chose differently, and I didn't listen and wound up in a wheelchair in a motorcycle accident. So, and I'm still paying for the accident 21, 22 years later. So the times I've followed my intuition, stuff has happened exactly how it's, everything's worked out. But the times I've not listened to it, it's gone completely different.
So do you think maybe that's the lesson? To listen to your intuition?
Absolutely. Because there's so many people who choose not
Such a big
to
lesson.
even acknowledge that intuition exists, so they're not going to follow it. So I agree, absolutely. You chose to follow your intuition in this life. And if that was to avoid you being in a wheelchair, then you predetermined that anyway.
Kathy?
It's a mind twist. Remember, thinking outside the box and stretching your parameters.
I think Kathy has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Mr. Kathy.
say it's both. Okay?
Sure.
Here, for instance, we predetermine the lessons that we want to learn while we're here.
Right.
So the universe sets things in motions for us to be able to learn these lessons. But it's our free will that determines how we, because of our choices, how we learn the lessons. So it's not set in stone exactly how everything's going to play out. But when we do play things out accordingly, then the people that come into our lives actually help us along the path that we have chosen. So when I'm doing one thing, like Mark said, he had to go and get married to find out that that's not what he wanted, blah, 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 blah. So I'm over here and I don't realize that, you know, my life is going in one direction. And I'm thinking I'm learning all these lessons. Then I decided to become a minister. And once I decided to become a minister, this is where my free will changed and everything sort of happened for me, because when I made that decision, then all of a sudden all these people came into my life that helped me along the path for me to be able to become a minister.
But how are you so sure that was your free will that you decided now to become a minister and you didn't decide that beforehand?
For the simple reason, if we decide everything before we come down here, then there's no purpose.
There's no
Yeah,
lessons.
And you still have to experience it, you still have to go through it, you still have to feel it. And karma is about feeling the results of what happened in the previous life. So it's still about your emotions, it's about how you feel.
I can understand that. But what about the way that you go about doing it? It's just, to me, it's got to be both. It's got to be a part of the universe that we decided that we wanted to learn this lesson when we come in here, and then the universe says, okay, well then I'm going to set in motion a number of different things that's going to be possible for you to learn that lesson. But then it's our free will, our choice of how we learn the lesson. So I might learn the lesson by going to, say I wanted to know what it was like to work with an oil company. So my free will chose me to go to Alberta, and the universe set up that I could have went up north or I could have went over to China. You know what I mean? So I still learned the lesson, which is predetermined, but it's my free will of how I'm going to go about doing it.
Exactly. And that's the way I always thought of it. So, Kathy, you had...
Yeah, I was going to say like nearly the exact same thing as Reverend George, other than I wasn't Reverend.
But you could be. You could
I
stop
could be,
that.
yeah.
It's destiny.
Exactly. But my other thing is just from life experiences, is also part of the free will, is the lessons that I've learned, is also getting out of the victim mentality. So it's also part of like the perception of it, because you can change your perception of it once you have that awareness and once you have that understanding as well, that you can look back on your life. Because I clearly remember from before I was born the 5 different lessons I was supposed to live, and I could have chosen this life in Canada or a separate life in Africa, and I would have died as a 5-year-old child.
Right.
But I specifically chose this life. I chose my parents. But so there were big lessons that I chose, but then at the same time, there was lots of little things that people brought in my life and to learn that experience and to learn those lessons. But letting go of, the labels that I put on everything was my own choice, and once I had that awareness as well.
If you had free will.
I did.
Young man has another question.
Well, it's not a question. Well, there is free will and it's not free will as well. When you say it's not free will, I don't see it as predetermination. I see it as just no choice, period. So like, for example, if I have free will of choice if I want to go to Harvey's or McDonald's, which I don't like McDonald's, don't see. Don't ask me. But you don't have free will, like, it's not predetermined because, like, let's say a woman had a son and then another son, so it's not predetermined that you're gonna have a brother. It's just you don't have a choice. So basically,
Well, that's a good point.
So anyway, like I have free will to like punch him, but I'm not gonna.
Predetermined, mark taken.
That's right, exactly, if that's the case.
But at the same time, I don't have a choice that I'm gonna get in trouble. I get in trouble. I have no choice.
Exactly.
That's the consequence.
Free will is not to.
It's not predetermination. It's just no choice. Period.
That is another point.
You waited a long time for that. Good job.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's a mini Corey.
It's a mini, Where's the door?
Now, just one other last thought is, look at the number of people that you hear about, or you might have even met yourself, where they might have escaped a near death. But then the week later, they still end up dying a different way. they may have thought they escaped it, but it was predetermined that that was supposed to be their time to go. So it still happened in another way.
But it wasn't their time to go the first time.
Yeah.
But
You
maybe it
watched
was.
Final Destination, didn't you?
Oh, I did. Is that on TV?
Oh, it's a set of movies.
Oh, okay.
It was like
All
10
right.
years ago, 15 years
Oh,
ago.
okay.
Don't
Anything on
watch
TV,
Okay.
forget it. So,
Corey, I think you have a point?
I do. Okay, well, mine's a little different variation of that. And that comes down to, as I see everything as energy in that sense, is that people are light, radiance. And radiance travels, and it moves in line. Light moves. And so as light moves, we all move with it. So we interact with it, we correspond with it, we make choices with it. It's going from one end to another. That, in the sense, we have no choice. That's written, that's done. We're going one way, and we're going to keep on going that way until whenever. You know, the multi-universe sets aside a different plan. So we're always going to be moving as energy, as light, so that we don't have a choice in. Light bends, so there's your options. When light bends, you change your options, you change your plans, things change. This light bends, corresponds, pushes this light. This light bends. So one little trigger can make a whole bunch of different things bend, but they still bend in such a way that when they straighten out, the outcome is still the same. We don't get a choice of how the whole thing boils over. A pot boils over, you don't have a choice, it boils over. But the outcome is still an event horizon that has happened. So that's the outcome. So that's the destiny of change.
So do you say the bends are the free will?
Do I believe we have free will?
Are the bends
No,
are
the
like
bends,
free
the
will?
bends.
Free will.
Depends, yeah.
I believe we have free choice. I believe we have choice and options.
And that's what bends the light?
And that's, we are co-creating our light.
So we
That's how
bend
we
the
bend
light,
it.
or
We have
the
a-
light bends and we have
Both.
to go with it?
It works both, because you can have a choice of, I want to go speed past that car. That's a part of a choice. But the other way is, the guy behind you, once you pass him, he may decide, oh, you just sort of like emotionally gave me a curve, and so I want to go in past you as well. Where he may never have passed you had you not passed him. So you're changing the event horizon, how you got to the other end of the highway. But you never know when you get on the highway how the road's going to be. You can put the same 50 cars on the same road 50 different times, you'll have 50 different outcomes.